Greg Simons. He is a Russian politics analyst. He joins me now live from Dhaka. Greg, great to have you here with us on TRT World. See, here's the thing. The U.S. was the main backer of Ukraine in this war. The U.S. was the biggest supporter of Ukraine's membership bid into NATO. But right now we are seeing a drastic shift in U.S. policy. The U.S. has completely pulled its support out for Ukraine. I mean, it shouldn't be this easy for the U.S. to do something like this because it was because of U.S.'s actions Ukraine is at this fate right now.
Well, unfortunately, it is that easy because there are a couple of factors involved here. One of them is the fact that Ukraine is a proxy. It is an object of this particular war. I mean, we saw how the peace deal in Istanbul was sabotaged. They don't get to decide their fate in this regard. But also, I think even more importantly, how it relates to US politics. This is seen as a war that the Democrats and Joe Biden championed, and Trump has no interest in it. It's a completely new administration, and as I said, they have no interest in this particular war, especially when they have the war going on in Gaza and the genocide, ethnic cleansing there. So he has to shift his priorities, which seems to be the case.
Greg, I think you made some very interesting points. I just want to make sure I get this right. So what you were suggesting here is that the U.S. doesn't really care about Ukraine. What we are seeing in Ukraine right now is U.S.'s domestic policy, domestic politics rather, play out on the battlefield in Ukraine.
Absolutely, because, I mean, Trump sees this as Biden's war. He doesn't see it as something that he has invested in. I mean, Trump is very transactional when it comes to a place like Ukraine. He has no tie with it, and he sees this as a lost war. And so if you're a businessman, you cut your losses when you realize that the whole situation is not going the way anticipated, and that you're losing when you need to invest time, resources, etc. elsewhere.
Right. Now, Greg, I want to pick your brain on some important things here that we are hearing according to reports. There are reports out there that the U.S. might ask Kiev to accept Russian annexation of Crimea as part of the deal that they're discussing with the Russians. I mean, if something like this were to happen, what kind of precedent do you think it's going to set for Russia? Because critics would say at this point, if something like this happens, that means military aggression pays off.
Well, actually, no. And this situation is a very complicated and infected issue because if you look at it, this whole entry into the Ukraine war was a very murky one. For example, the OSCE observation group left Donbass not because of the Russians, but because of the Ukrainian army building up. So you have all of these complicated issues. Plus, I mean, Russia doesn't have the same capacity of the Soviet Union, plus the fact that politically, I mean, it's a completely different ball game, geopolitically especially, than it was, say, at the end of the Second World War. So, I mean, a lot of the problem is this hyperbole and these projections from Western leaders. So, you have this ideology which is overriding pragmatism and a more objective view, because what this is, it's great power politics in a very concentrated form of realism in geopolitics and international relations.
Fascinating insights, Greg Simons. Thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. I really appreciate your taking out the time.